Hi everyone, my name's Hannah and I'm the reading teacher. I've come to talk to you today a little bit about what I offer and what some of my lessons might look like. So this video is all about what a group comprehension lesson online might look like, run by me. So firstly, who is online group tuition for Comprehension for? So it's offered for children between the ages of 7 to 11. I have different groups varying on age and ability, and it's for children who can read fluently but don't always understand what they're reading. They might understand the most part of it, but they're struggling with maybe some of those deeper inference skills and trickier comprehension skills, like looking at author's use of language, also author's use of layout and structure. They might struggle to make really good predictions based on clues that they found in the text. These are the children that the groups are perfect for.
So what are parents saying? You can see here that Lewis's confidence has already grown in my sessions, and he's actually picking up books and reading on his own accord, which is amazing. This was a quick bit of feedback after a child's first session with me. You can see she really enjoyed it, and actually she started using some of the strategies already. And finally, this is a child that's been working with me for a bit longer now. His confidence has really grown too, which is actually a lot of the struggle with children. But he's also started meeting his reading goals at school and engaging much more in his school lessons.
So all of my group sessions are run on Zoom, and I offer a 2-session trial. So what that means is that every child has a 1-to-1 assessment with me first. That's their first trial session. And in that session, I look at their strengths, their areas for development, and I work out a plan moving forward for that child and make sure that I'm putting them in the right group as well. And I communicate all of that information with their parents. After that trial session, they then do their second trial session, and that session is in group. So they come into the group session. I will have set them up on all of the tech beforehand, and they see how they get on and give it a go. All of my sessions are run on Zoom, and we work on an interactive whiteboard called FigJam. And it's brilliant because I send the link to all of the children in the group, and then we can all interact and collaborate on the whiteboard throughout the lesson. So it's not static. The children aren't sitting and listening for long periods of time. They're always involved and they're always active. And it means as well that nobody has got anywhere to hide, because if I'm asking them to write something, everybody can see what somebody's writing. Obviously, I make sure that people's individual styles are brought into account, and if someone's feeling a bit nervous, I'll make sure there's lots of prompts and lots of support for that child. So let's get to it. What does a normal lesson for group comprehension reading strategies look like? So the first thing I want to say is that all of my lessons, I try and make them as fun as possible and as interactive as possible, because what I'm really trying to promote is a love of reading. And what I'm really trying not to do is to make it textbook based, worksheet based, test practice based. All of those skills are being interweaved. So if your child is preparing for a test, that's fine, because we're going to be doing lots of skills building that they will need for that test. And then we might touch on some questions at the end of each session. But the sessions themselves are looking at really engaging text to try and build the children's enthusiasm and enjoyment of reading. Because if they're a reluctant reader, which most children who struggle with comprehension are, that's going to be really key for them getting involved in the sessions, keen on the sessions, in order for them to move us forward more. So the first things that we always do in each session are, every session we talk about the 5 W's hand. And what that means is simply who, what, why, where and when. And that's really important, because children struggling with comprehension tend to struggle with what the gist of the text is. They've not been able to understand some of the language in the text possibly, and they've not been able to make inferences about what's happening. So actually this helps them drill down the 5 key bits of information they need to find in the text. How they find them is a little bit trickier, and that's what we learn throughout the sessions. But this is a really good routine that we get into, using the 5 W's. Every time we look at a text, every time we look at a chapter, a picture, a video clip, we go back to the 5 W's before we do anything else. So every lesson we start with a bit of a warm-up, and the way that we do that is I use lots of pictures, Pictures are brilliant for developing inference skills, and children quite often are using their inference skills without realising, and actually it helps me to get them to identify that. So you should be able to see on the screen now some examples of pictures that we might use in our sessions. So this one is a really good example. We've got a picture here of what looks like a father and a daughter, possibly. We don't know that it's her dad, but he looks like a father figure. And actually just saying to the children what's happening in this picture, some children find it really hard. So we're then trying to train them to see what are the clues that help you realise this. So I'll do things like 1 minute, jot every single thing down you can see in the picture. So it might be what they're wearing, what the weather's like, what items are in the background. So we're really trying to encourage children to zoom in on detail, and then hopefully that transfers through to their reading as we're scaffolding those skills. So you can see with this girl in particular that she looks like she's wearing a school uniform and she looks very upset. So this is something that the children have probably got a familiar context with. So when I say to the children, what time of day do you think this is? They will then tend to explain that, it's probably a school drop-off or school pickup. Okay, why do you think the girl's upset? She doesn't want to go to school maybe, or she doesn't want to leave her dad, or maybe a mixture of the two. And we discuss ideas for why they think this might be happening. And actually that's really good because they get to use skills relating back to their own life. You should be able to see some other examples of pictures that I might use for a warm-up here. There's so many different ones that you can use, even if you just go onto news websites, Newsround, BBC News, and look at pictures of the day. They can be really brilliant ways to practice your child's comprehension skills. You can see one here, actually, I think was from The Guardian that I got it. There's a picture of a hair sort of factory almost. And it's where people have donated their hair to charity. It's been cut off and there's a woman organising it and putting it all in rows, but actually trying to get the children to identify that. What is the picture of, for a start? Why do they think it's all lined up? Who do they think the lady is? Actually gets them to really draw on some background knowledge that they have, and also really look for clues in the text. Okay, there's another one here, and they've obviously won a sports match. Okay, how do you know they've won a sports match? Well, they're all in kit. Okay, they look like they're on a pitch. They look like there's lots of sponsors and various things in the background. Okay, how do you know they've won or scored a goal? Well, they're all really happy. They're celebrating together. All of these skills that you're drawing out of children by looking at the images, we can then scaffold and transfer to looking at more complicated texts. So the next thing I tend to do in every session is, once we've looked at images to practice various skills, we'll then go on to looking at small snippets of text. So sometimes this might be in the form of sentences, especially if we're looking at clarifying. That means how to work out word definitions without knowing them when you're reading. We'll really break it down into sentences. You can see an activity here that I've got up on the screen, which is them using their detective skills, their inference skills, to look for clues in the text, to be able to work out, create that picture in their mind. And that's what I'm always saying to children. Our main game when we're reading is 5 W's. Once we know those, we've got a really good understanding of the text. And actually those 5 W's should then help to create a visual image in our mind of exactly what is happening. So here with this activity, children have got different clues which they're looking at and annotating and analysing together. And at the end, they're required to sketch a picture to see if it looks like the picture under the top secret sign. So they're looking at the clues, they're sketching a picture, and then at the end we reveal the actual picture the clues were written for. So it's a lot of show, not tell. So what is the author trying to tell us without explicitly telling us it? And why do authors do that? Why is that more interesting than just saying exactly what's happened? And this also transfers to their writing skills as well. And we do little snippets of writing in order to help them understand that. Okay, and then the next thing that we'll do is we'll transfer this to longer text extracts. And this is really important because the children need to learn to build that stamina for reading. And they also need to learn that actually these skills that we're doing nicely together and we're scaffolding and we're breaking down, they can be transferred, and the children can do it with longer texts. And they don't have to enjoy every text they read as well. I will say, what did you think about that book? The clip from that book. And they'll say, oh, well, I liked it. I didn't like it, I found it boring, I found it too hard, I found it too easy, and we'll have a really good discussion about that. And actually a lot of parents will then go away and buy books for their children that we've read snippets of in our sessions. So that's an idea of a general lesson that we might do. There are obviously lots of other things that we cover. We really go into details about all the different types of comprehension skills. We have a really good social atmosphere in the group. There's lots of discussion, lots of interaction, but hopefully that's given you an idea of an example lesson and what that might look like, and also an idea for some things that you could do at home with your children.